a taper pin, another taper pin, and another taper pin, and I've got more which are bigger, and the taper is all the same. The only difference is the small end and the large end changes depending upon the size or length of the pin, and they have a nominal position, and it's about 3/8 of an inch down, and it's the diameter of it at that point, and that determines the diameter of the taper pin. However, so that's regarded as I think it's a 3-inch or 2.5-inch long 1/4-inch taper pin, and that's the corresponding tapered reamer for it. And tapered reamers come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and English ones all have the same taper. American ones have a slightly different one, and metric ones have a different one again. And it's the same setup. It's about 3/8 of an inch down. That's the nominal diameter. So that's a 1/4 inch, and then there's I think there's a 9/16 somewhere. And anyway, there's 2 taper pins. Pin the cross slide assembly onto the sliding element, and because I've had to overline, I've had to open up the holes to allow me to lift the screw and move it across to give me the alignment between the gear on the shaft and the driving gear from the apron. I need to put in oversized taper pins, so that's what came out. It's a bit gnarly, but it's a taper pin. That's the next size up, and that one is my go-to. So first thing, we know that the holes between this piece and that piece are no longer aligned, so the first thing we've got to do is ream it out. My problem is access to it for the reamer is pretty restricted. The designers had the foresight to put a couple of cutouts, but for some reason, when that's in its vertical position as it is now, as it should be, this one isn't aligned. I don't know what's happened there. That's how it's always been though. So anyway, so I've reamed out this one to give me basically smooth sides all the way down. Let me just take that out. And the idea was to fit the next size up. And if you look, it's quite a bit bigger than that one, but there isn't one that's intermediate, or so that's where I was. That's my ream, and you can see the witness marks on it where it's been used, about 1.5 inches. So stuff it down and basically keep going until you're almost bottoming out. Then I know you've got a good hole. Problem is the taper pin don't fit. Its penetration is not even through that. Yeah, so we've got about 1/8 of an inch in, which leaves me with a problem. I can, if I stick a drill down and open the hole up further in, I can stuff more of the reamer down, and I need it to be down to about that level. Or I've got to come up with a different thing. Now, a long time ago, when I was wrestling with taper pins the first time, I found these, which are extra long. They're still the same nominal size here, but they go to a smaller diameter. And what I figured was, I could stuff that down the hole, it's wobbling about, bring it out, grind some off the end, and keep going. So that's where I've took 7/8 of an inch off, and I'm just about got an alignment now. They've got a fit now, so I'm just going to nibble off a little bit more, another 1/8 of an inch, just to make sure it's not bottoming out in the hole. I think that will be good on there. Problem is I can't ream that one, so I've got to do this one so it's a nice fit, and then undo the screws and take this lot off. Well, I'm going to take that assembly off and get this collar out of the way so I can ream that one out. But yeah, right palaver. So I bought myself a reamer, and it's only doing half my job. Bought myself a set of pins, and they're not right. So yeah, if I knew what I was doing, it'd be dangerous. Right, so that's those two fitted. Just going to mark them, cut them off, and then I know that when I put this back on, I've got it in the right spot each time. A lot of faffing about, but I can't think of another way of doing it. And I don't have a vast array of taper pins to work with. Something I'll keep looking out for. Get metric ones, no problem, but getting a sort of decent array of English taper ones is proving troublesome. Anyway, bring you back when I've done the next bit. So having got the taper pins sorted out on this assembly, I can now take it in and out and know that it's relocating to the right spot. My current dilemma is down to the lead screw. Now we know we need to replace that screw and the nut, and it's an oddball size. I think it's 9/16 Acme, which was a bespoke size for Holbrook. Now a friend of mine and fellow Holbrook owner has modified a Holbrook lathe into a CNC lathe, and he's effectively produced a tap which will cut that thread, and he's also made up a boring bar which will cut the internal thread, and has offered to do it for me, but basically to make me a new nut. My view is along the following: make a new nut and fit it, and then I can convert the shaft that I've got pre-cut with the gear, thread that up to match the new nut. But I can only thread it on this lathe. It won't work on my metric lathe. So then, for all intents and purposes, I've got a new shaft set up, and away I go. And I can do it on this once I've got the cross slide running. So I need a sort of temporary solution for the cross slide, which will give me a usable setup to cut the thread down this. My concern is a 9/16 diameter thread over, I think it's about 12-inch length, is going to be a hell of a challenge for me to actually cut. Not least of which because the thing's going to be trying to move, so I've got to use it with steady rest. I've never actually used a steady rest, travelling steady. So there's that side of it. The flip side to it is, in the event of something happening which results in the nut either getting damaged or worn, I'm back to I can't produce the nut. No, alright, it's only ever going to wear out, and that's going to take a hell of a lot of use and probably see me out anyway. The other option I've got is to actually up the size from 9/16 to 5/8 left-hand Acme, because a 5/8 left-hand Acme is an available thread. The only difference is I think it's a different pitch. This is 8 threads per inch, and I think the 5/8 is 10. So I'd need a new dial, but that's no big shakes, and the one I've got's pretty badly. It's not so legible. It's cleaned up all right, but they're not great. I would rather have a slightly bigger dial and be able to see it. So it'd mean making up a new dial and graduating that, which again, you know, I can do. It's just tedious doing it. So what I've been doing is basically trying to work out, is there enough meat below the nut? If I increase that thread size to 5/8, have I got enough meat left on the nut to allow for it? When it was originally set up, I think that gap was down to about 40 thou. However, I've had to lift the screw up to get the engagement because all of these have dropped. And now what I've actually got is it would maintain that bottom position, but the centre height comes up a degree. So I could get a 5/8 in there. If I couldn't, then that would have made the decision. So I'm now struggling with the dilemma of which way to go. Either way, if I rebuild it as is, that nut needs to move over in the cross slide, which means making some kind of arrangement to allow that to move in an eccentric, so I can shift it over but maintain the height that way. Well, sorry, I'd have to take a bit off these surfaces. So setting it all up, it's a lot of different bloody things changing and moving. I'm getting to the stage where I'm thinking I might be better off just getting the thing made up with the 9/16 screw cutting. So get the nut made up that will fit this existing cross slide just for the moment, and then once the lathe's up and running, cut the thread on this to suit. I've actually left this oversized, so I could go down the route of a 5/8 at a later date. But I'm figuring with a new nut with a bit more meat in it, it's going to reduce the backlash, but it should be workable anyway. I mean, it would be usable now if I just offset the nut over. So I think what I'm going to do now is make up a blank nut in bronze, make up a section here that I can put feed it through here and mark the center of the nut, and then send that blank down with my gears to Andy, who will cut the thread. Yeah, so that's the end of my stub shaft coming through, the pointy bit on the end. So now what I've got to do is make up a bronze piece that'll go under the cross slide, and then bring the cross slide up till it's just touching that, and give it a thump, and that should give me a centre line. What's the plan? Lunchtime. This is the final clean up pass in the first face. It's 20th thou depth of cut, 8th thou feed over. So we're just setting the blank up in a 4-jaw chuck, so we've got to turn the spigot now down to about, it's just past 5/8 of an inch off there. All I've done is set it up by eye, and I think we were within 4 thou. There we are there. 0, 3.5 thou. I mean, that'd be fine as it is. I'll just give it another couple of tweaks, and then we're up and running. I've literally just tightened 2 jaws. That's now within 1/2 thou. Not often that happens for me. Off we go. So we're bringing it down now. You can see they've sheeted round to keep the chips in. Just need to check the dimensions that I'm aiming for, and then finish it off. Well, that's the blank nut made up. Frustratingly, I'm about 1 thou down on that size somehow. I don't know why. Well, I must have mismeasured it before I took my final cut, but I'll probably end up putting some stud lock or something on it when it's in to hold it up. But I put it in, packed the underneath to make sure it holds up high enough, and then punched the end with the rod we made up the other day. That's now going off to my friend down in Kent, who is going to drill and tap and we're not sure whether he's going to tap it all the way or whether he's going to single point it and then tap to finish. That's down to Andy to sort out. And then when it comes back, we should be able to build up the cross slide and get ready and take a look at the swivel slide, as Holbrook referred to it. We got post. It's just arrived. I've just finished editing the video for the straight edge introduction to scraping and the likes. The courier's dropped this off. Pretty sure I know what it is. It's nice to have it back. Some of that. So I owe a huge thank you to Andy Pugh, and I'll put a link down to his channel again. Andy set himself the challenge of making up a 9/16 Acme left-hand tap, because you can't buy one. Well, you can, but it's 500 quid. So he's made the tap, and then somebody else suggested that tapping a nut that's 2 inches long, bronze, with a 9/16 left-handed Acme thread is a no-go. So he did that as well. He's actually done that on his CNC Holbrook, which is just a Holbrook Lathe, which is retrofitted CNC control to. Watch his channel. I'll put a link below. He's also recently acquired a tool grinder, D-bit tool grinder, and he sent me a tool bit ground up ready to go. So just a quick look at the finish on that thread. That's bloody superb, isn't it? It's cleaned really nice, that. And then looking at the tap, which is made from 01 tool steel, or silver steel we call it in the UK. And it's got all the proper reliefs ground on it. And it's not, other than he's poked it through a piece of brass, not bronze. It's not been used yet. Whilst I'm quite impressed with that D-bit grinding. Something I wouldn't mind getting, because my Clarkson tool and cutter grinder is just a bit big for my workshop, so I might have to sell that and get something else. So that was the original cross slide nut, and you can see the centre line of that is in line with the centre line of the locating boss. However, the threads inside are just about shot. I thought I'd get away with, and I'm still trying to get away with, putting it in to the cross slide, building the cross slide up, and then using the lathe to make its own new cross slide. That's the plan. So I can't do anything with that until I've finished doing the job. However, when having re-scraped the cross slide, there's a problem with the alignment now. Having it's dropped, so that would mean I've got to take material off these faces. That's no problem. But the whole thing's actually moved across, because I've taken material off the inclined faces of the dovetails. So that alignment means that nut now, because it's the position of it is set by that, has moved across. So not a problem making a new one, because I made the blank, turned the boss, fitted it in, made up a locating dowel, tapped the end, and that's what Andy's used as a centre line for that. And you can tell that is not in line with that anymore. Didn't get me over the problem of how the hell I run the lathe to make the screw that fits into that, which I've already got the gear cut blank for, which Andy did for me a while back. So I've had to come up with a cunning plan, and it's not ideal, but is where I'm at. So the plan is basically to put an oversized hole through the existing centre line on the cross slide where the boss fits, make up a bushing with an eccentric locating hole, so that hole fits the nut boss, and I can rotate this within its mounting to give me the throw left or right, or backwards, forwards, left or right. I've give it I think it's 88 thou, which should be plenty. I could have probably got away with a bit more, but I was nervous about breaking out or getting too close to the edge. So my next job on here is basically part it off to length, and then I've got to fettle the existing nut so that when it fits in the bush under there, I've got to, as I say, reset that height, so the centre line there to the underside of this has got to be adjusted, and that boss there is actually turned on a very, very slight taper, so it gets tighter the further it goes in. So I've just got to dress that so it's a nice, I can get it in all right to the new boss. So yeah, that was a bit of a faff, but the plan then is to basically fit the original screw, which is that, with the very worn thread, and then use that to turn the 9/16 Acme thread on that. I have spent quite a bit of time trying to determine if we could go up from a 9/16 to a 5/8 thread, and the long and the short of it is there isn't enough material underneath the nut, in my view. So I'd be afraid of it, basically this position here, there isn't enough material underneath where the threading is, I don't think. But that's my plan B, in which case I'll either truncate that and put a new piece on with a pocket, or I will ask Andy to if he would mind cutting me that again. We shall see. Anyway, plenty to do between now and then. So that's a rough fitting up of the eccentric to mount the nut, and I haven't fitted the gib yet, but this is hard down and hard across. And that's going all right. So I'm going to finish fettling that so that it seats down. I've left it all slightly oversized so that I can actually just get a sort of very slight press fit, and that should give me enough to there's your backlash. It's going to take a bit of working out, get get anything accurate made off it until I get the new screw in, but it's doable. For those wondering, when it comes to fitting that, because I know that the centre line of that is on the centre line of the screw, I can take that eccentric bush out and just make a new bush which is concentric, or I can keep the eccentric one in there and just adjust it around. It'll either throw it forward or back depending on where I set it. So yeah, quite pleased with that at the moment. Well, that's fitted now, and it's quite a snug light press fit for both the inside and the outside. So yeah, next job is to basically clean everything down, get that mounted onto the cross slide, and rebuild the quick return mechanism. One thing I didn't cover on the earlier vid was why the hell haven't I just fitted the new nut? Well, aside from, well, the main reason is that the sizes on that nut are such that the shaft itself, that shaft won't fit in that nut. We've elected just to make it's because 9/16 Acme is not a standard size. What we've elected to do is put a bit more meat onto the ID to make the shaft thicker and kept the OD the same. So as a result, it wouldn't go down into that. So I couldn't use that. The second thing is I actually need the nut free to be able to test the fit when I'm making the new cross slide screw, because anybody who's made an Acme screw knows that there's quite a lot of leeway you can do, and if you want it with zero backlash, you need the thing it's fitting to. So I can't have the nut on there making the screw. I've blathered my way through that one. Bring you back when I've got something sensible to say. I have filmed this once, but I don't think it ever made it onto the final video. This is the cross slide screw and handle and quick return assembly. It's basically you've got the casting, and it sits that way up on the lathe, and there's a sleeve that runs through. Yeah, that diameter there runs on that shaft. Yeah, and then against the sleeve, I don't know whether you can see inside there very well. Can you see a slot cut? That slot runs across the tube, and in the slot runs a little, let's call it a cam or a slider, and the slider sits on the end of an eccentric, and on the end of the eccentric is a spur gear which is operated by a lever. So when you get it all built up in normal running position, and I've had to work this out from building it up 2 or 3 times, the handle's there, you move the handle to that position, it rotates the spur gear, which moves that slider out, and therefore pulling the cutting tool away from whatever you're doing. It's about half an inch worth of movement, or 1/4 of an inch. But it is an absolute swine building it up, because you can't get to anything. That little follower, which is a hardened piece of steel, only goes in the slot in one orientation, otherwise it doesn't seat. And you've got to, I can't do it on the lathe. I have to take it off and put it on the bench. That thing's got to go in at the right orientation, otherwise the handle won't turn, because it only functions when it's assembled right. I actually had it up together once in reverse, so handle was here and you move it to there to move it out. Realised that was wrong, took it apart, and then about 3 further attempts before I could get it back together. Anyway, so I've got to build it up now. I'm not going to video it because I'll make several mistakes, and you'll get bored watching me putting it together. Maybe to have little fingers. You little swine. There has to be an easy way of doing this. Arse twice. I can't put it in the tube first because it doesn't go down the hole. Nope. I can't feed it on the end of that shaft and put it down with the shaft, because I've tried that and that don't work. So try to get over sealant. It has to be on this side, so you just see it there, yeah. And then that goes down. And obviously that's got to pick up in the hole. That's it. So that's the first bit. Now that should seat right up, and it's been sticking. I don't know why. I think it's to do with this lock position. So that's the action of it, but I've got it together wrong. So it should be dead smooth, and that needs to go over. So just need to work out which bit's not right. I bet you it's the cam. Anyway, you got the basic idea. I'll bring you back in a couple of weeks when I've put it together. So that's the operation of it. It's just a bit stiff, so plenty of that down it. But getting all the little shafts lined up so the grub screws go in and whatnot. Still looks as if it's a tooth out. See, it's not seating around there, but then it doesn't round that side either, so maybe it's alright. Right, so it has a cap screwed on the end which locks the it wasn't functioning at all when I got the lathe. When I took it apart, there were a few things not really put together properly. So I think somebody's had a problem with it and tried to fix it and ran out of time or give up. That handle originally was straight. It's some kind of cast bronze alloy, but it should be a straight handle. Had a bit of trauma. Right, so I'll fit that up on the lathe and I'll put the bastard handle on upside down. Because it goes that way round, the handle should now be over there and down. Or does it? Yeah, I'll put it together as it would be on top, and it's not supposed to be all the way around. That's annoying. Right, so there's a bit of a clank from the gear underneath, so there must be a bit of excess play. So when I set it up, that was when I doweled that, so I can't adjust it now. It's just, I think it's just backlash between the gear on the cross slide screw and the gear underneath it. Anyway, so that's that functioning. That's the quick release. That just wants a bit of working now, I think. Yeah, there'll probably be some fine tuning as it goes along, but at the moment that bit's on. So I've got to take that off to fit the disc. Oops, I'll bring you back. So there'll probably be some fine tuning as I move along, but I mean, that's got to come off for me to fit the disc that fits under there, which attaches to the swivel slide. I've got to do it one piece at a time.